what's going on down there. 2 minutes after the top of the hour, let's bring in Donald Trump. He's running for president of the United States. He's got a debate in a couple of nights, but he joins us live from somewhere in his empire. Good morning to you, Mr. Trump.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as you look at what's happened overnight and happened the night before down in Charlotte, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's wow. Here we go again. It's very sad. When you look at what's going on, it's very sad. It's very divided, our country, and it's getting worse. So I'm not overly surprised to see it, but it's happening.
Why do you think it's getting worse?
It just seems that there's a lack of spirit between the white and the black. I mean, it's a terrible thing that we're witnessing. You're seeing it. Well, I'm seeing it, and you look at what went on last night in Charlotte, a great place, and you just see it. There's somewhat, and I see it even going out. There's such a lack of spirit. There's a lack of something. Something's going on that's bad, and what's going on between police and others is getting worse.
Mr. Trump, what would the message be of a President Trump to these rioters, to the anti-police protesters?
Well, it really has to be. You have to have law and order. At the same time, Pete, you have to have a certain spirit, a certain unity, and there's no unity. You look at the level of hatred, the rocks being thrown and everything happening. It's so sad to see, that this is the United States of America. I mean, it's so sad to see, but there's just no unity. There has to be a unity message somehow that has to get out, and it starts with leadership.
You know what, Mr. Trump, don't you think there needs to be a dialogue between the police and the community that they help keep the laws in? You can't just roll up when there's trouble. You got to have a dialogue with the folks every day.
Well, that's true, but if you look at Dallas, there was a dialogue. They prided themselves on dialogue, and they were constantly talking and meeting and having community groups, and that was a pretty rough situation, to put it mildly, a terrible, terrible situation. And, so that sounds good. It sounds right, but there's something deeper than that.
I was glad to know that you had a dialogue with hundreds of African-American community leaders. You had that yesterday. It was supposed to air last night, and then for Hannity for the town hall. Hannity didn't end up airing that because he was live on his show for 2 hours last night, so it's going to air tonight. We're all looking forward to seeing that. But what was that dialogue like? Because it's important it's easy for us to say what we need to do as white individuals. We're sitting on this couch, but what does the black community want from the white community? How can we work together as a country?
Well, we went to Cleveland, and it was really beautiful. Pastor Darrell Scott, who's a great guy, and his church. And we had a tremendous group of people there. It was amazing. And that's right. It's going to be, I guess, on Hannity tonight. It was going to be last night.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, this preempted it. But we had an amazing couple of hours that we spent. And I'll tell you what, something can happen, and it can happen fast, and it can happen that's very good. But right now, it's not taking place. There was great love in that room yesterday, and you see pictures of it. You see it right now on the show.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tremendous feeling in that room. I mean, something can happen with the right leadership.
I know. I read a report that apparently there in that black church in Cleveland, you were asked what you would do about black-on-black crime, and you said maybe it's time to bring back stop and frisk.
Right.
And I saw that you sent out a tweet. Stop and frisk works. Instead of criticizing New York Police Chief Ray Kelly, New Yorkers should thank him for keeping New York safe. Why do you think stop and frisk would work?
Well, Ray Kelly did a great job, and New York was not in a Chicago situation, but it was really in trouble. It was in bad shape crime-wise, and with all of the shootings and everything. And Rudy Giuliani did a great job as mayor, and they really straightened things out with stop and frisk, and it was used further by the next mayor, Bloomberg, and now they just, recently, not so recently, but fairly recently, they stopped it. But stop and frisk worked. We had tremendous numbers of shootings. Now, Chicago is out of control, and I was really referring to Chicago with stop and frisk. They asked me about Chicago, and I was talking about stop and frisk for Chicago, and where you had 3,000 shootings so far this year, 3,000 from January 1st. And obviously, you can't let the system go the way it's going, but I suggested stop and frisk. And some people think that's a great idea, and some people probably don't like it. But when you have 3,000 people shot and so many people dying, I mean, it's worse than some of the places we're hearing about, like Afghanistan, you know, the war-torn nations. I mean, it's more dangerous. So,
well, it does sound, Mr. Trump, like Chicago's going to add, I think I read 1,000 new police officers. So you got more cops on the street, but unless you give them the tools, what are they going to do?
Yeah, no, I think Chicago needs stop and frisk. Now, people can criticize me for that, or people can say whatever they want, but they asked me about Chicago, and I think stop and frisk with good, strong law and order. But you have to do something. It can't continue the way it's going.
Will you explain what that is to my folks down in South Carolina that don't really deal with stop and frisk? What exactly is it, and what are the pros and cons?
Well, there are different levels, and you have somebody coming up who's the expert on it. But basically, they will, if they see they're proactive, and if they see a person possibly with the gun, or they think may have a gun, they will see the person, and they'll look, and they'll take the gun away. They'll stop, they'll frisk, and they'll take the gun away, and they won't have anything to shoot with. I mean, how it's not being used in Chicago is, to be honest with you, it's quite unbelievable. And you know, the police, the local police, they know who has a gun, who shouldn't be having a gun. They understand that.
Sure. Stop and frisk, for the most part, is where you give cops more power to quiz passersby if there is reasonable suspicion.
That's right, absolutely. And in New York, it took them, I mean, the numbers were unbelievably changed. I don't mean just a little bit. It was, massively changed. And it became a safe city. It went from an unsafe city to a safe city.
That's right. Well, Mr. Trump, moving to politics a little bit, yesterday you must have been pleased to see a set of 3 new Fox News polls coming out of the battleground states of Nevada, North Carolina, and Ohio. We're going to put those numbers up on the screen for our viewers. In Nevada, you now lead Hillary Clinton 43-40. In North Carolina, your lead is at 45-40. And in Ohio, a key battleground state, holding at 42-37. Your reaction to what appears to be a very strong surge in these very important states?
Well, it's great. I mean, I feel really good about that. I just saw that last night, and I'm spending a lot of time in North Carolina, Ohio, and Nevada, and Florida, different places. We're doing well in Florida also, and really, really good. I think we're going to do well in New Hampshire. I think that's going to be really good. I was up there a lot, and we seem to, really resonate in New Hampshire. It's a great place, and so I think we're doing very well.
Yeah. Mr. Trump, coming up on Monday night on all the channels will be the first presidential debate. I know in the media they've been talking about whether or not the moderator, in this case Lester Holt, should he be a moderator and just ask questions, or should he be a fact checker where he asks a question and then if somebody says something that he thinks is wrong, then he's going to interrupt and try to correct the record. What would you like to see, a moderator or a fact checker?
Well, I think he has to be a moderator. I mean, you're debating somebody, and if she makes a mistake or if I make a mistake, we'll take each other on. But I certainly don't think you want Candy Crowley again. That was
she was wrong.
Well, and she turned out to be wrong. I really don't think you want that. That was a very pivotal moment in that debate, and it really threw the debate off, and it was unfair. So I don't think you want that. No, I think you have to have somebody that's just lets them argue it out. And, I think there's a lot of pressure on Lester. I think Lester's a very good person, a very good man. I think that there's a lot of pressure on him because of Matt Lauer. When I had the town hall, I guess you'd call it, or the forum last week with Hillary, it was, I did well, and I had tough questions, but the polls all had hers taking a drubbing in that one. Now, I will say they went after Matt Lauer. I've never seen anything like it, and I think my questions were harder than her questions, if you want to know the truth. And a lot of pressure is being put on Lester Holt, and it's Bobby Knight type pressure with the refs. Okay, Bobby Knight would go after the refs, and that's what they're doing with Lester Holt, which is, I think, very, very unfair. And a lot of people are watching to see whether or not he succumbs to that pressure.
Yeah.
There are 2 presidential debates. It's Chris Wallace and Lester Holt, right? Those are the last 2.
3 in all.
The third one is the vice presidential.
4.
Oh.
So we have 3 debates. We have 3 debates. Chris is doing the last debate.
Right. Who's doing the one in the middle?
Anderson Cooper, and you have Martha Raddatz.
There you go. All right, so we got plenty coming up. Mr. Trump's going to stick around through this commercial break, and he's actually going to answer any questions you've got about the debate ahead of Monday's showdown. Ask the questions of the presidential candidates. This morning, it's your turn. You get to ask Donald Trump some questions.
Hard to believe we are 4 days away from that debate. Paul on Twitter, Mr. Trump, wants to know, how do you plan to stay cool when Hillary personally attacks you in the debate?
Well, they've already spent like hundreds of millions of dollars attacking me, and I guess Madison Avenue said go after temperament, and I've always felt temperament was a good asset for me, maybe my best asset in many ways, and we know how to win, and the country has to win. And, this phony charge of temperament, and so we'll stay cool. I mean, we'll see what happens with her, and we'll see what's going on with her, because there's something going on that a lot of people are trying to figure out, and we're just going to see what it is. I'm going to be very respectful of her. I think she deserves that, and I'm going to be nice. And if she's respectful of me, that'll be nice. We'll have something I think that people will respect as a debate. But we'll see where it all goes. You really never know exactly how it's going to turn out, and that's why we're going to have a lot of people watching, almost as many people as are watching your show right now.
Almost, barely. No, the world will be watching that interaction, no doubt. Mr. Trump, Janine emailed in saying, how are you going to help the middle class with college education costs, and how will we benefit with you as president?
Well, we're going to do a lot on that. One of the questions I get asked the most, especially, obviously with the young people, is college and college costs and what's happening. The colleges are going through the roof. They're not watching their costs because of the fact that they're getting all of this money from the government indirectly used, with the students being used as a conduit to get it there. So they're not watching their costs, which is very unfair to the students. It's frankly very unfair to the country. You look at what's happening with college costs, how it's escalating, and we're going to do something to help the students, and we're working on a plan. We're probably announcing it in 2 weeks.
Well, we'll be watching for that. Matt is on Twitter this morning, Donald Trump. He says, do you expect congressional opposition? If so, how will you implement policy as an executive if you got trouble down the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue?
Well, you've had opposition for forever. The best combination was Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. They just sort of got things done. They liked each other. They had different views, but they got things done, and it was great. And I'd like to see if we could have that, and we will get it done. We're going to get it done. Right now, we have an executive order president. He just keeps signing executive. He's given up on that process, by the way. He's given up on what you're supposed to do. So we have an executive order president. We will, I think you'll be amazed. Hopefully it'll all work out, and I think you'll watch, and I think you're going to be amazed at what gets passed through Congress, going the way it's supposed to go, and I think you're going to see a lot of great things happen.
You mentioned a moment ago how much the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent by Team Clinton. I saw an item this morning that said Hillary's team's going to spend 53 times as much as you are on ads in Florida between now and November 8th. So she's thinking the TV ads are going to help her side. But then yesterday, Mr. Trump, she said at one point on a teleconference, why aren't I ahead by 50 points by now? Why isn't she ahead by 50 points by right now?
Because she's terrible. I mean, she's had a terrible record. Everything she touches is bad. You look at what's going on with Libya, and you look at the surge, and you look at all of her decisions, and you look at the Iran deal, which is one of the dumbest deals I've ever seen, which she started. And she totally backs, by the way. I mean, in its completed form, she totally backs. You look at everything she touched. I mean, it's just a mess. And she's spending a lot of money, and so far it's not had much of an impact because I guess I'm winning in most of these states, and we'll see what happens in the end. But she is. They're raising money. The special interests are giving her a fortune so that they get what they want. It's it's actually sort of unfair, and yet amazingly, I hear 50 to 1, and she's already spending many, many times what I'm spending, and she's not doing it. So we'll have to see what happens. It's a lot of money. 50 to 1 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
We're going to be watching on Monday. We'll, in fact, be there. We're taking the show on the road, so we'll see you out there
Great.
at Hofstra.
That's great. I look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trump.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Meanwhile, this is Fox News Alert. Racial tensions boiling over in